Let's talk now to our correspondent, John Terrett in New York. So, John, what's America waking up to?
America, Robin, is waking up to the complete upending of its political system in a way that we've never seen before. This is really quite extraordinary. Now, President Biden is being praised for his selflessness. He's done something that very few human beings have ever done in the history of the world, and that is to give up a top job like the presidency, which you've worked pretty much your entire life to get to. And he's done it apparently for party and country. So he's been widely praised for that. We have actually seen this before. In 1968, the then Democratic President Lyndon Baines Johnson did a very similar thing, but for very different reasons. That was all to do with the war in Vietnam. Now, what I don't think anybody expected him to do necessarily yesterday was to actually go ahead and immediately endorse his Vice President Kamala Harris, which he did, and that has energized the Democratic Party this morning. The donation pipeline, which was frozen last week, has suddenly started flowing again. And as you said, Robin, $50 million was raised in just the first 7 hours, apparently, after the announcement from President Biden. So Kamala Harris at the moment now has her work cut out. She needs to very, very quickly define herself to the American people as the presidential candidate. She says that she's going to work hard to win the nomination, and she must do this before the Republicans do, and they're already defining her as somebody part of a conspiracy and a cover-up, preventing us all from knowing the true state of the health of Joe Biden. Robin, there are no easy transfers within the Democratic Party system for funding or pledged delegates. Last hour I said that there was to be a meeting on Wednesday. I think it's actually the following Wednesday, so that's a correction, but it will be a virtual meeting. Kamala Harris will be taking part. Everybody in the world can join in virtually if they wish to, but at that meeting she's going to go ahead and work with people and try to work out the issue of funding and delegates. But there is still the possibility of an open convention in 3.5 weeks' time where there is some kind of battle between her and maybe other candidates as yet unknown. That could be virtual or it could take place on the stage in Chicago. It's simply too early to say. Finally, today or tomorrow, President Biden himself is slated to meet with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Washington, D.C. Harris herself spent yesterday in her sweats, we are told, at the headquarters of the Vice President, just north of the White House there in Washington, D.C. Today, Monday, she addresses the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, so we'll hear from her. Republicans are saying we need to hear from Joe Biden now, not later in the week, and they're calling for him to go now if he's not in a state to actually run for high office. The markets in New York, where I am, are in the green at the moment. It's being taken as a Trump rally. Robin?
And, John, there's actually another pretty big political story taking place today, isn't there? Because the head of the US Secret Service is appearing before Congress after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump.
That's right. Well, Americans are coming off a week that they've never seen before in their history. The attempted assassination of President Biden, the rambunctious and very unified Republican convention, the huge computer outage that we saw at the end of last week, and now, just 7 days after the assassination attempt on President Trump, the resignation of Joe Biden as the candidate. So now what's happening on Capitol Hill is Kimberly Cheadle is giving evidence. She is the Secret Service Director. She's been there since 2022, so a couple of years now. Now, it's important to understand these things are always used by members of the committee to get clicks and likes and get airtime on local television, so they never hold back with their questioning, as we've seen in other instances. Kimberly Cheadle has just said she accepts full responsibility for what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. There's an investigation, she says, internally to work out how it happened and make sure it never happens again. And she said that she was proud beyond words for our response after the shooting attempt on President Trump. Now, Jim Jordan, who is a Republican from Ohio, is just questioning her, saying, you know, did you speak to the Secret Service shooter who took out the young man, Thomas Crooks? She said, yes, I did. He said, well, what is it that you spoke to him about? She said, I don't reveal internal private conversations. Jim Jordan said, look, this is exactly what the American people want to know. Why won't you tell us? But she refused to speak. So that gives you an indication of just how nasty this is getting. And it centers around the attempt on President Trump. It centers on the later revealed Iranian plot against him, and also apparent requests for funding and more protection from the Trump campaign to the Secret Service, which apparently were turned down, although Kimberly Cheadle is dancing around that, seems to be dodging the question if it seems to me, but she did say that the Secret Service uses its resources judiciously. So that is continuing now. The House Oversight Committee live at the moment on Capitol Hill. Robin?
John, for now, thank you very much. Our correspondent John Terrett in New York.